Welcome to the Durham Original Music and Alumni podcast, a show which takes you around the most exciting original music of any kind on or around the peninsula. My name is George Bone, Alumni Relations Officer.
I'm Taylor Morse, DOMAP President.
And joined with me today are Sam White and Ed Osborne, formerly known as Escher, also known as our songwriting competition winners. Guys, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you.
We bring you all today to talk about how how you came to be, how your song sort of struck in the less cheesy way possible, struck a tone with our judges and the audience as well, and also just to know a bit more about your styles and stuff like that. So, dare I ask how Michaelmas 10 has started for you guys? How's it been learning stuff online?
I hadn't really had to do any online learning before, so it's hard to like get in the zone like you would if you were working properly in person, because you'd have a destination, you'd know that's where you go to concentrate. But apart from that, I think it's been all right.
Yeah, having to organise your own time instead of sticking to a timetable, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of them are pre-recorded, and if they're pre-recorded, it's so easy to just say, I can watch it later. I don't have to get up for the time being.
So it's basically a case of like trying to push yourself like out of that boat. Obviously, as you've sort of grown up, you had this vision of what university would be like for you as freshers, and this is what Freshers Week would be like. This is what going to lectures would be like, meeting friends and stuff. And as first years, now that you've gone through that, is there sort of like a breaking of the spell there, or how has that vision sort of shaped up to what the reality is?
Yeah, well, it's been weird. Like, my sister, who's older than me, said, "Oh, you'll be fine. You know, first year is like hardly any work at all, and it'll be really fun and everything." And then I don't know. Now I'm here. It's like that. To be fair, it might be to do with what I was saying before about having to manage yourself. It kind of feels like I'm just working all the time, and there's, I sort of, my vision in my head is I wanted to be busy, like doing music and doing lots of things, but not busy just doing work.
Would you say that's the same for you, Ed?
Yeah, so there's definitely, English is, I think there's less like work that's been formally set, but they really encourage you to do like reading outside of the subject. And you obviously have to read all the books that you're covering, which is a lot of books. So there has been a lot of work. And especially as like my essays are starting to be due soon, so I have been a lot busier now, with less time to do other stuff like music.
Yes, the final end of term crunch. Even as sort of like a fresher, when everyone says, "Oh, it doesn't count," don't worry, it's only first year. You've not done Freshers Week or Freshers Year during a global pandemic, so that's the big difference that we've got going on here. Speaking of that, then, as you two are freshers and just coming to university at the same time, how did you guys meet in this sort of circumstance then? Because obviously we're not allowed to sort of link up together house-wise. So how did you sort of get your cogs going, and how did you meet, and how did you work together?
Well, we've known each other for a while. I went to preschool with Sam.
Oh, cool.
Really good friends there. And then we went to separate primary schools, kind of fell out of touch. And then we went to the same secondary school, and we were both taking music there. So we became friends again there. We started just playing music together, and that went all the way through sixth form. But we only really started writing songs kind of in the later part of sixth form and as lockdown hit. And that's when we started collaborating. Just email online.
Yeah, we've been sending each other files, basically. It's all been remote, which, yeah, we've been doing that all summer anyway, because that's what lockdown was like. And then so for the songwriting competition, it was sort of the same as what we had already been doing, just kind of sending each other files and ideas and trying to do it remotely.
So essentially you've sort of got ahead of the game then by going into university, knowing each other, and having that sort of understanding with each other online. a lot earlier than other people would have by going to university and trying to network with each other.
It's a nice coincidence that we've both ended up at Durham. Yeah, I mean, well, not that matters much because all the restrictions mean we can't actually meet. But yeah,
how's it been for you, Ed?
It's been. I haven't been able to like do much music while I'm at Durham, but it has been nice to be able to know that I can still function and make music without meeting people and without having to play like live in a room with someone. So yeah, the summer's been like a great dress rehearsal really for that.
We'll go to before the summer now, because you said that you've sort of talked to each other and knew each other beforehand. You were in secondary school together with each other. Was that when the sort of musical cogs started kicking in together so that you could then work with each other now in a more electronic sort of field over Zoom and sending WeTransfer links to each other? What was the sort of dynamic between you two musically then?
I was in a few bands from like early secondary school. I learned the guitar and I would play in assemblies, but we didn't do much outside of that. And then I was forming a new band with a friend, and obviously we both knew Sam, and Sam was thinking of playing bass, weren't you? So
yeah.
You decided to learn the bass, learnt it really quickly, and joined the band. But at the time, we only really played covers for like the first probably 2 years of playing together. So it was good. I suppose it was a good practice at like playing live with someone and like knowing how they play.
Sam, you were talking to us earlier about sort of the few gigs that you had beforehand when the world was sort of somewhat normal. Were they gigs that you did with Ed or with competing bands?
Yeah. Well, so we did this one gig at a sort of festival back in Romsey, where we're from, called the Beggars Fair. And yeah, we were just playing covers, but that was a lot of fun. We put a lot of work into that, a lot of preparation. It was a really big deal. I don't know, yeah. And then that was just I was just playing bass for that. I wasn't singing.
And I think it was kind of after that where we started to think about trying to write our own songs and maybe like make something original. And then you were kind of, at the start, Sam, you were just thrust upon singing duties because we didn't have anyone else to sing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're definitely like, you've grown into the role. You are the singer now.
So it literally wasn't a case of sort of like I wanted to do this. It was a case of you are the only one who can do this.
Yeah.
It's like when playing like goalkeeper or something like that at like a primary or a secondary school. It's like, if you want to be a goalkeeper, then you go in goal. If you don't, then nah. It's on a rotational basis of defenders and attackers who get bored of scoring.
The first time that you properly sang was just out of, I think you were kind of forced to do it for your music coursework.
Yeah.
And you sang that song, and then that we just kind of worked from there.
So this was at college. One of my assignments for music was to fully produce a song, and the idea of it was, you're supposed to kind of organize, get a load of guest musicians to help bring your track together, and then you're playing the producer role. But for whatever reason, I just couldn't find anyone
like that at all.
So
oh no,
pretty difficult
so
to have things told to produce an entire song. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of fun.
Is that fun in quotation marks? It was a lot of fun.
You were in a big time crunch the week before it was due, though.
Yeah, I had to obviously I hadn't had much singing experience other than I was in a choir. So, solo singing is not my thing. I had to stay home, skip off college one day. And so I had the house to myself and I just sung into the microphone like this. And that ended up being the vocals on my coursework. The song that I did for that, we ended up redoing later in the summer, and it sounds a lot better now than it did.
And that song's called Preacher.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is it? I was genuinely having a conversation with you two beforehand. Basically, I was like, we're going to show the songwriting competition song, and what other song would you like? And we determined it was Creature. I never knew that it was a result of your A-level.
Yeah, so Creature was the very first one.
That's insane.
I just played guitar on that kind of out of coincidence because obviously I was Sam's friend and Sam needed a guitarist. And then, so that was probably the first actual songwriting that we did together, was me making up a guitar solo for you.
And here we are now.
Wow.
Out of curiosity, given that you did the songwriting competition and you've had a bit of a background in production, what skills did you learn from those prior experiences that kind of helped you here?
Yeah, the course that I did was definitely a massive help for production. It was like, I got very familiar with Logic and got actually taught how to mix and master and stuff. So that's like a big kind of hurdle that you have to jump when you're trying to make your own music, start out making your own music. Yeah.
I didn't take a music course, so Sam's kind of just like winging me through this, like when I'm doing production and stuff.
I mean, to be fair, most of production is just winging it anyway. It's basically just going on this is what the software is. If you're going to get better, you're going to have to sort of go through the motions of learning what each knob does, what each button does, in an attempt to make yourself sound that just bit more professional. And every sort of incremental sort of move that you take will get you towards there eventually.
Yeah, I mean that early version of Creature that I did for the coursework was awful. Even though I'd been, I'd been taught for a year and a half how to mix, it sounded terrible, and I don't know how I got a merit for it, but
you got a merit. We're here now. This is good news.
and then like I said, we revisited it, and I think it sounds a lot better now.
Can you just give us a brief rundown for each of you about like what kind of music you listen to day to day, what you kind of like tap into when you feel like you have to be creative, that kind of thing?
I listen to a lot of like shoegaze music, like My Bloody Valentine and Slowdive. So I guess I kind of got into that when I was starting to write songs, and a lot of the stuff that I did for the songs is quite atmospheric, quite effect based because of that, and a lot of reverb is on it. But I think Sam has like different influences, but we both have some in common. Like we both really like Creeper, and we both really like Muse and Radiohead in terms of like balancing both of our like influences. They've got their atmospheric and effects based stuff. They've got a good groove that Sam likes.
Do you guys ever find that there can be an opportunity for the interests you guys share in music to clash? Has that ever been an issue in terms of like what you find inspirational?
No, not really. It's kind of been like whoever has the initial idea for the song, the other person will kind of try and think up their part, but like in their own way. We're not like telling each other, I'm writing this song, this is what it has to be. We just kind of incorporate each other's ideas. I think it makes for better songs as well, because if it's just one of us doing like the bossing around and saying this is what it has to be, then the song's not going to turn out as good.
No, I think you're completely right. You can see from a lot of like prior artists. I think a great example would probably have to be like the Rolling Stones. You can see that there's definitely been songs where one member will take charge over the other. But I recently found out that Mick Jagger isn't even the actual musical I guess brains behind the operation. So I was pretty shocked to find that, because he is like one of those compelling frontmen that you just sort of assume run the show. But
yeah,
I think an equal divided relationship when it comes to the process is so important, because the minute that sort of those roles sort of take shape and change, it can be interesting. It can get nasty, but that's for a separate conversation.
If one of us was just like saying all these songs are going to be how I want them to be, like it would make for a really boring album almost, because if there's no like variety, if all the songs had a ton of reverb on, like I would maybe want, or if all the songs were like Sam would like, then it would, the album or the collection of songs wouldn't be as diverse, it wouldn't be as interesting. So there's definitely like merits to just kind of balancing each other's approaches and meeting in the middle.
You essentially had a trial run of that over the summer, because you were talking about how you sort of worked to produce around six or seven songs, or like bare bones sort of structures for them over the summer, and you were talking about how sort of you both equally worked to produce them, sort of not necessarily in your specific style, but a cohesion of both of them. Could you explain more about that?
Yeah, well, that was pretty much it. We kind of We had a fairly equal split. I don't really know. It was just a case of like I was saying earlier, someone has an idea, maybe they'll kind of formulate their part and then a drum part or something, and then send it over. Say like, Ed sends me something. Can you come up with a vocal line and a bass line to this? Or I'll send him something. Be like, can you add some texture to the verse or something?
Yeah, it kind of it definitely works well collaborating. Just asking, like, if we each put in our respective parts. Like, I wrote a song over the summer. I think it was Chisel and Hammer, and it was like quite reverby, quite atmospheric, and it was like almost a bit too atmospheric. And so when Sam came up with his vocal line, the vocal line was just just a rock chorus vocal line, which really helped to make the song listenable instead of just
an egregious amount of reverb just on top of each other.
Sometimes you just need, someone to listen to your music and sort of give it that fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it was so nice having all that feedback from the songwriting competition. That's like exactly what you want, because when it's even two of us, like, it's helpful having two of us because we can bounce off each other and sort of criticize each other's work or whatever. But the more outside opinions you have on your music, the better it's going to be. People are going to pick up on different mistakes.
I mean, that's why we specifically ran the competition, not necessarily to be sort of like this artist is like better than this artist objectively, so therefore they win this great competition. It was a case of sort of everyone, regardless of their sort of production abilities, regardless of songwriting abilities, can get their music out there, get it shown, and then by judges, not only from our exec, but judges that we bring in as well, for them to just have feedback on their work and for it to be sort of appreciated in a field which is very sort of saturated by sort of very standardized artists.
It's a really great way of like expanding like the sphere of influence on an artist, because with me and Sam, we didn't have many people to give us feedback, and the people that I'd show my dad the songs, and he wouldn't criticize them too much. He just said they're all good. So it was really great to get a lot of opinions from a lot of different people who know their stuff.
I mean, parents are just naturally not a great feedback source.
Especially Ed's parents. Ed's family are like our biggest fans at the moment. Your brother absolutely loves our music.
My brother keeps pestering me to put it on Spotify and stuff, which we'll have to do eventually, but he's very keen in seeing it released. But yeah, it was just really good, and hopefully the feedback you gave us will influence the songs we make in the future.
So, considering the songwriting competition, I would like to turn our attention to your songwriting competition entry now. I would like to talk about sort of just in your personal opinion, outside of what you spoke about your influence for the song, just expanding where your position was. So you said in your description that, quote, the photo made us think of a place you get a bit too used to and comfortable in a way that ends up making you feel scared about venturing outside. So what do you think is the sort of main sort of branching out points from there? What sort of points of the song do you think sort of create an antithesis for this statement? What influences did you get to make you feel that this was the aura from the picture?
Yeah, so it was probably quite sort of lockdown inspired. It was kind of about how, several months of not much going on, you sort of stay in your house most days, and I saw the picture. It was kind of an inside space. It was kind of looked quite dim. There was a window which sort of reminded me of you kind of look out the window and watch the world go by without actually going out yourself. And yeah, there's a line at the end which says, peering out into the open air, such a scary earth it is out there. I think that's quite a good summary, really, for everything.
As a one holistic line to take out of it that sort of sparks out to everyone. What would you say, Ed?
I really think that the instrumentals as well go quite well with the lyrics, in terms of the guitar part seems quite. You said it sounded a bit folkish, and
Yeah.
The melody sounds like a folk melody.
Mm.
And I thought it made it sound a lot more comforting, if you know what I mean. A lot more like almost like a nursery rhyme or a song you'd sing to a child. And I guess that it fits with the theme of like staying inside and the insular like nature of the song.
I remember one of my comments was going on the folk melody front. My comment was the turn that you have at the sort of high point of your melody of the verse, has a sort of festival, sort of like folkish, sort of passed down the ages feeling about it. So it's sort of that sort of comfortable sort of family connection, but sort of hidden in the melody. And life mirroring art as per, it was very ironic that on the day that the entries for the songwriting competition stopped, it was leaked that we were going to go into another lockdown, granted for only a month, but it was still a moment where that sort of inside comfortable nature is now having to forcibly be explored again by having another lockdown imposed on top of us. In that sense, then, when thinking of these inspirations, do you think through your tracks first and layer what you want to say on top of that, or do you think about the picture first and then sort of write your music on top of that?
Well, so we just had like the sort of guitar part and the drum part in the verses, like as an idea, and then when the songwriting competition got emailed, I kind of thought, oh, what we could turn that idea we had into like a full song, and so we put this ending section on the end of it, and added some lyrics based on the picture.
So would there be specifically one point of the music, both of you, that sort of epitomized this sort of crescendo of comfortability, the sort of that sort of musical antithesis? We've got lyrical antithesis, but do we have a musical antithesis point of what this you're saying?
I think so one point was in the chorus, the guitar part in the chorus. I remember coming up with that, and I thought it sounded, again going back to the theme of folk music, it sounded like Ben Howard, and I really liked that. I'd been listening to him through lockdown, and so that folk kind of, the folk accompaniment to the folk melody, I think we got really lucky that we put the like instrumental track and the lyrics together, and that definitely helps create that kind of isolation.
I'd say compared to our other songs, it's clean guitar tones instead of, proper rock guitars. It's definitely got more of a kind of introverted sort of vibe about it. Yeah.
Another crescendo would be like the bridge, the interlude to the song, where everything kind of comes back in and Sam's vocals come back in. Like, I think you say they won't fly away. That's kind of, you said you wanted to like build that up to make it a really atmospheric moment, and I think that definitely shows in the song.
I'm really quite impressed with your the fact that you guys already knew each other, and especially the fact that, like, given everything going on with lockdown, you're still finding ways to like make the music and like make it happen. In terms of, like, I used to do this with someone. I used to just send recordings over, and it wasn't really working out that well. But I really, like, as a testament to your, songwriting competition, I feel like this is really working for you guys, and you might actually be role models for other people in Durham.
Aw. Yeah, I hope so. That's really nice. Yeah.
Everyone's got to learn, like, in this particular season of our lives, this is going to be quite a difficult thing just to sort of come back from. And I feel like if everyone can still find ways to be creative, maybe at a distance, maybe find new modes and mediums. But in any case, if it's working for you guys, then that's a testament that it could work for many other people.
Yeah, it's not ideal, obviously, but I think the reason it works well for us is we've got kind of similar influences, and we probably have a similar kind of vision in our head about kind of, I don't know, what our sound should be. Yeah.
Well, no, I heard Ben Howard and I was like all about it. I love that, man. It's a very good inspirational lockdown sound, I feel.
Definitely, yeah. It was it's almost the perfect sound soundtrack to lockdown and the isolation.
Yeah.
It's not really what I'd usually listen to, but yeah, when I found it, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, are you guys actually finding, I've been talking to a lot of different people about this as part of DOMAP and just casual conversation, are you finding that your music tastes have changed since you've been reflecting inward and staying inside?
Yeah, a little bit. That's really interesting, actually. I would say so. I think during college, I was listening to quite heavy, like metal and like hard rock. And then once lockdown started, I was delving more into the kind of, Radiohead, very sad music and like all of that kind of thing.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
not sad or listening to sad music, but
That's awesome. Feel depressed.
in like, because it was the middle of summer, really, lockdown, and usually at that time, I don't know about everyone else, but my music taste kind of like changes with the seasons of it. I'd be listening to a lot more upbeat stuff in the middle of summer, but maybe because of lockdown, maybe just because the music was better, I started listening to like a lot more, yeah, like Sam, a lot more depressing music, a lot of The Cure and a lot of shoegaze as well. And I'm not sure if that would have happened if lockdown had happened, or I'm not sure if it was because of lockdown or just because my music taste is changing anyway, but it definitely changed stuff.
Mine was very different then, because at the start of lockdown, my dad had coronavirus at the start of lockdown, so we were all trying to sort of be together and we were feeling very inward, and my musical taste sort of went initially to trying to find comfort in songs that I liked. So I have a Shazammed playlist that I've sort of like correlated from radio and stuff like that. I looked in on that as well as the songs that I like to give me comfort. However, as lockdown went on, and especially during this one, I'm now having to ask other people, like, what artists do they like and what are they inspired by more? Because there's that feeling in me that I want to explore more of a world out there. We may be locked physically inside, but whatever I can get sort of outside, like whether musically, sort of, or other influences, then I want to push those boundaries in whatever sort of safe way that I possibly can.
Yeah, that's really cool. And definitely I think lockdown's kind of made my like music horizons broaden almost. Like I'm more encouraged to look for stuff that I wouldn't usually try and listen to. I guess to expand the music I'm listening to, even if I can't like do other stuff outside.
Well, with that in mind, here are 30-second clips from Escher's Burrow, which they used for their songwriting competition, but also Creature, mentioned earlier in the pod. You can find more of Escher's music on Twitter under Escher Band UK, Instagram under Escher Band UK, and on Bandcamp under Escher Band UK. If you want to hear more of stuff that the Durham Original Music and Alumni Network are doing, you can follow us on Anchor, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. On a final note, guys, do you have any sort of tips or tricks that you'd like to give people potentially either in your position or looking up to you that you may want to sort of give people along their musical journeys?
I suppose the biggest thing would be if you're trying to start making music, just like do it straight away. Don't spend time waiting to like find the best recording equipment or to find like a genius song idea, because you just got to learn as you do it. So you can download some free software if you want to, and yeah, if you learn any instrument you want and wing it, I guess, because that's how that's how we started, and you will learn quite quickly and hopefully get better.
Sam, anything else?
Yeah, I would just say, accept that at the start you're gonna make some bad stuff, and don't feel disheartened if it's not up to the standard of the music that you listen to, and then you will get better.
Brilliant. Well, Ed and Sam, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's genuinely been a pleasure, and it's been so fun to have a chat to you guys.